consists of 3,500 or 3,600 restaurants, retailers along the East Coast, expanding toward the West and Midland. The representation of buying goods is huge. We amount to over $2 billion of goods of purchases and exchanges per year. And we gross thousands of dollars per individual in savings and cash back. Many of you are very familiar with the system, including some of my colleagues here, who we worked together in the past without knowing each other. But we consume. We are restaurants. We consume. We consume the products that we bring, that you bring over to the United States. And as we consume, whether we are approaching this from the corporate point of view or from the retail point of view, we have demands. I am a consumer. I demand a good product. I am a restaurateur. I demand cost effectiveness, continuity of my product, product recognition where my customers will sit on my tables and will buy the product that I sell. I am Greek American. I prefer to use Greek American products. I like to use Greek olive oil. I like to use Greek tomato. And I know there is more olive oil than the Italian olive oil, and I know there's more olive oil than the Spanish olive oil, or the Libyan, or the Tunisian, or what have you. How do I make sure that my customers eat that olive oil? I buy it. I look for it. But if I cannot find it, I have a problem, which brings me back to the brand. Where do I find this olive oil that I want to sell? And then it brings me back to the costs. How much do I pay for it so I can have it on my table, where I charge an average of $10 or $15 per person, or $20 or $50 per person, depending on my pricing scale, depending on the type of restaurant that I operate. That isn't the microcosm that I deal with every day. To a larger scale, if we take this approach and we expand what we do with the cooperative to what Jet Set Communication does, which is another company that I operate as a chief executive officer, a consulting group which advises companies worldwide on how to approach the market footprint in the US, on how to reduce costs, on how to create contractual agreements that will expand or propel this company's success in the United States, how to analyze the trends of demand, and how to actually produce and give to you, to your household, or to your restaurant, or to your outlet, your shipping facility, or your factory, or your school, or your college, the product that I want to give you. So when I present the buyer, I need things. I need to find the product. I need to find it less costly. I need to find it every day, and I want to associate myself, my organization, my consumption needs with that product. As an open statement, I would say that cost analysis and brand recognition are the two basic statements that very successfully Mr. Kefalogiannis approached the market with, and here are the results.
Thank you, Dimitris. Ms. Pohanga, please, the floor is yours.
Okay. Do
I have it here.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
You're
Which
welcome.
one is it to forward?
This one.
Well, I don't have the luxury of speaking in Greek at all, so my presentation will be in English. My presentation is a little bit more tactical on how to approach the U.S. market. First off, when I say, what's your story? Why would people in the U.S. want your product? Product differentiation. What is it? Was it mass appeal, innovation? You heard earlier, innovation in packaging, manufacturing process, value-added product. Is it taste? Is it a solution, dietary? Or is it cost? You're going to approach the U.S. market differently depending on what you're offering. In specialty food, and you're going to hear a lot about specialty food today, we want to hear the story. Okay, we want to sell the romance behind the product. So if you're just starting out with a product, specialty food is most likely where you want to start. It's important to do your market research. Look at trends. Is it a new product you're trying to establish? Or is it an already established product, which obviously is going to be much more difficult to market? Specialty Food Association, if you go to the Specialty Food Association website, which I have up here, specialtyfood.com, there's several research studies that have been done to give market analysis, whether on a case pack study. We did a case pack study a few years ago showing that 6 packs are the case pack to go. Okay, you never want to be above 12. So there's some things to take into consideration even prior to getting to the point of selling. The Specialty Food Association has an annual State of the Industry report. Again, you can access this on the website. It was done by Mintel, incredibly valuable information. For example, cheese right now is the #1 category in the specialty food, and then meat and deli. So you can kind of see from this report, where does your product fall, and is the product category growing, declining, or is it stable? And as you heard, trade shows. Trade shows not only to show your product, but to go and get market research, whether it's an international show, the fancy food shows, a PLMA for private label, which is a very large emerging trend as well for U.S., not only for distributors, importers, but for the retailers as well. And know your target market, because knowing who you want to sell to is going to help give you direction on how to find the right process to get your product to the U.S. So if your product is specialty, there's specialty food service distributors, broadliner. So by broadliner, these are the big companies that sell nationwide, that sell everything from paper goods through to specialty. The specialty is usually a smaller division for them. There are very few distributors that distribute across the whole U.S. You could sell direct to specialty retailers. It could be someone like Trader Joe's, Zingerman's. There's some small, I'm going to say very niche distributors or retailers who will import themselves. Do you want mass market or even industrial? Can your product be used to make other products, which adds more value? And when I say food service, it's not just restaurants and catering. Think airlines. Do you want your product in the airlines? See, my strangest story working for distributors, a funeral home called me and wanted private label chocolates. And at that time, we could source them out of England. Now, I never thought I'd be selling to a funeral home, but so it's kind of look broadly, look around you and look for opportunities. And really what's growing in the U.S. are the e-commerce sites, whether B2B, so business to business, or direct to the consumer. So they're importers that will import and sell versus over the internet, and that way you're reaching more customers and more of the smaller customers who might not be able to make minimums from the distributors. And then geographic, demographic. So if you look at, do you want your product to go to ethnic, for example, ethnic Greek shops, you're going to look for a different importer than you are if you feel your product has more broad appeal. Okay, finding the right partners. It's not easy. So working with a distributor importer is just like any relationship in your life, right? It's got some ups, got some downs. It's a negotiation, and it has to be right for both parties. And I cannot stress that enough. There are times that you're going to be speaking with someone, it's okay for you to walk away if it's not right for you, because it is a partnership and you both have to work together to succeed. So you have importers. Now, some importers only sell to other distributors. So when I talk about pricing later, you're going to see that if you're selling to an importer that sells only to other distributors, you've just added a layer, 20, 30% into your price. There are importers that also distribute, and they might do food service, direct to retail, or both. Importer for e-commerce, direct to retailer. Are you interested in branded or private label? Again, some companies are only going to want your product if they can put it under their brand. So are you prepared for that? And again, something like that, you're going to state the requirements. You're going to state the minimums per run, whatever requirements there might be. When you establish a relationship with your importer, it's a long-term relationship. Okay, and again, as a relationship, you can't sell to an importer and walk away. You need to provide the marketing support, the sales support, because you're the expert. And the importers have a lot of products. So how do you get your products in the forefront? Clearly communicate your expectations and understand the distributor or importer's expectations as well as their margins. It's okay to say, where are you going to be with my product? Because you need to know what your product is going to be cost at the other side. And make sure you negotiate all of the terms that are important to you. When I talk about product costing, well, how many people here are already exporting to the U.S.? Okay, well, okay, product costing. There are many different ways to cost your product. Some importers might request US dollars, otherwise it would be in the euro. It could be, well, I have a lot of the terms up here, CCF, DDP. Wait, which one is? I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, I went back. What was that? There. Okay. So you state how you're going to sell the product. So it could be X works, which means it's up to the importer to get the product from your factory to the port and through CIF. You control part or the importer controls part. So if it's export, you get the product to the port, and from there on, it's the importer's responsibility to get it to the U.S., covering insurance. They basically take possession of the goods at that point. So understand that. Also, I know everyone thinks the U.S. is a huge country. Having full container expectations as a start is not realistic for most products. Okay, it would start pallet purchases and building up as the sales generate. Know your tariff and duty rates. Okay, again, part of your pricing structure is going to be what it costs to get the product into the U.S. So, for example, chocolate is usually 6 to 6.5% on the cost of goods. On a jam, every different fruit has a different duty rate. So if you might be line priced, and by the time it gets to the U.S., it's all over the board. Or a distributor might just price it at that highest price, so take that into consideration. Understand your landed cost. So landed cost, by that I mean the cost, every cost that's involved to get it to the U.S. distributor, because that is what they will base their price on. And make sure that actually you communicate what temperature the product needs to be shipped at. Okay, so this, you might not think it's important, but if it's chocolate, it can't go in a dry container in the summer. You know, and who's going to hold the responsibility for that? Currency conversion. So up here I have the example for suggested retail price. I just use the example. So if you take the euro, if it's 20 euro case, I was generous to the US 1.06 conversion. So it brings the product to $21.20 in US dollars. At 6.5% duty, that's another $1.38. And freight estimated at 30 cents, that's $3 freight on that case, under certain assumptions. So when it gets to the U.S., what was $21.20, the cost is now $25.58. Okay, a distributor, again, this is when you're going to communicate with them or discuss with them their gross profit margin, and not markup, gross profit margin. If they take 25%, you're now at $34.11 for that case. And then the specialty retailer on average would take 40%. So now the product is at $56.85. So something that you sold to the U.S. for $3.33 in this format is on the shelf for $9.48. Okay, and this is taking into consideration that you're selling to an importer that distributes directly. If it's not, then you're adding another 20% to that. So something basically $3 is going to be $9. So know where your product's going to be. You're going to negotiate payment terms. On average for importers, I'd say it would be 60 days. And that's 30 days to get the product to the U.S. and 30 days for 30 days. Some distributors are going to require more. And again, that's something that you need to negotiate. Minimum order requirements, you're going to need to know your pallet configurations. And again, not everyone will begin with full containers because they need to turn their inventory. Distributors, they work on days stock on hand. They want less stock on hand and want to turn the inventory more often. And again, it would depend on if someone is importing a lot of product from Greece, they're probably consolidating containers here. If they're not, then that goes LTL. So one, it's going on a combined ship with other products, and again, the freight costs would go up then. Case pack I mentioned, the smaller the case pack, the better. And again, if you think of it this way, in a retail store, a lot of the retail stores now don't have a lot of back stock, so they want everything in that case to go on the shelf. And food service, again, distributors, a lot of them don't break cases, so you want it in an easy, usable format. You'll be needing to cover marketing costs. So I've always averaged about 5% of the cost of goods for that. You would be responsible for any sampling that is done, sales support, whether it's in-store demos, in-store advertising, incentive programs, distributor shows. So there are a lot of costs which, again, you're going to negotiate with your importer distributor, but there are a lot of costs involved beyond just selling the product. Okay, now the scary part. Oh, we're missing. Okay, understanding the landscape. All right. You're going to hear later on from David from Registrar about the FDA requirements. So products going to the U.S., you have to make sure that your products have U.S. labeling. Okay, it's very important that you do this ahead of time. If you're exhibiting at a show in the U.S. and you're not prepared for the U.S. market, you're going to lose that sale because it's going to take you a long time to get this done. Nutritional format, label format, allergens, and ingredients. And I will say that the U.S. labeling requirements seem to be changing daily, so keeping up on that is very important. Your product claims, organic, it has to carry the California organic certification, whether it's GMO-free, gluten-free, fat-free. New legislation is coming through on all natural and whether you can put all natural on the label or not. You now have to put added sugar, even though sugar might be in the ingredients. If it's meat product, it's subject to USDA requirements. So, FDA, it's fda.gov is the website. USDA, you could check that as well. But to sell meat products to the US, you have to be USDA certified, which means they have to come inspect your plant. And again, that could take months, if not years. Product dating, very important. Product dating on the product, if it's best before, should be in the US format. Okay, there are a lot of problems if it's in the European format because then it's read as products expired when it hasn't. FSMA, which is the Food Safety Modernization Act, and GFSI, the Global Food Safety Initiative, which I say are new programs, which again, David will be speaking about from Registrar later on. These really put the onus onto the importer. So the importer has to make sure that all of the suppliers that they're buying from, in essence, have a company that has proper audit technique and follows all the requirements. So liability insurance, the U.S. is going to require a liability insurance. So if you're selling olives and they're pitted olives and there's a piece of a pit and somebody breaks their tooth, that insurance claim is going to come back to you. Okay, from the importer, from the distributor. And that happens 3 or 4 times a year, no matter how diligent you might be. Recall policy. You should have a recall policy just in case something happens. And I'm going to tie that into traceability as well. So if you need to make a recall, do you know what product, what lots you sold, to whom, when, and what's your strategy to notify them immediately and get that product back? You're going to negotiate payment terms. For new suppliers, a lot of importers and distributors might ask for what I would consider crazy payment terms, all right, 180 days, whatever it might be. So again, that's something you're going to negotiate. 30 to 60 should be standard. It would be very difficult to get prepayment, COD. You could do letter of credit. And importers and distributors also would request guaranteed sales. So with guaranteed sales, if the product doesn't sell within a certain period, they might want you to take that product back. Okay, so I'm not trying to scare you about importing, but I know it sounds like it. No, but just be aware, and again, make sure, these are just listing a lot of things to take into consideration. Know what you can manage and what you can't manage, and from there negotiate, and it's okay to walk away and find someone that suits your needs better. And the Specialty Food Association is going to be able to assist as well. There are lists of importers, distributors. Hopefully you will attend the Winter Fancy Food Show in San Francisco this year too, and you can see also what's the competition out there. If you're selling an olive oil, again, I know there's lots of olive oils in the world, why is someone going to buy yours? And what are you going to do to help tell the story and to help sell that product? So finally, the right partnership is the key to success. Have realistic expectations. Sales aren't going to happen overnight, and they need your help, especially if it's a new product or new innovation. The marketing for that, it takes a lot longer. Collaborate with a U.S. partner, communicate, educate, and be patient, because it's never easy. Someone is going to accept your product, and then you have a lot of paperwork to fill out. Vendor forms, new product forms, whatever it might be, the backup document, independent audits, insurance, and then once you're ready to go to market, just again, work together to get your product out there and to tell your story. Okay? Thank you.
I would like to thank also Tris, and let's now start, because I have to, Mr. Katsos learned us this in his panels, in order to make, let's say, a simulation of a company that would like to enter in the US market. So we have to suppose, to assume that we have a company that produces Greek sauces, okay. They have credentials like Mediterranean food, like they have a Greek recipe, okay, and they would like to enter to US market. So let's see step by step what we have, this company has to do or doesn't have to do in order to enter to this market.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dimitri. We just listened to specifics that your executives need to be aware of and be ready with when they approach such a task. And let's take a small to medium-sized company by the hand. Let's take them across the Atlantic and meet the American consumer.
I'm sorry, let's determine what is a medium or small-sized company for United States and Greece, because I think this is something that we have to state in the first beginning, and we are talking about small companies in Greece. That means, as we call them in our office, SMEs is super small companies. Okay, so we have to see this.
I won't elaborate on this, but it's very important we understand the economies of scale and the scaling of economies. So a small to medium-sized company would be one able to produce a line of products and supply the U.S. market.
The quantities?
Large.
For example, if someone from here, we have a lot of people that are interesting in order to enter to U.S. market. Mm-hmm. Let's say that they have a daily production of 100 tons.
100 tons?
Of sauces.
100 tons
Yeah.
of sauces a day.
This is
That'll be
the
enough.
maximum capacity that they can have right now. We have to study what they have to do so as to start entering in the market, and when they have to invest, what will they have to invest, and so as to go on with this.
Well, first of all, if we do have the production capacity, it's not there. We're not there yet. We can produce tomatoes, or we can produce product. But we need to understand if this product will be demanded or will be purchased by the U.S. consumer. And when I say consumer, I don't mean the individual alone. I mean the businesses, the retail outlets, the wholesale users, and I mean the large users of products and services. So the first thing we need to do is to understand the trends. The trends and the trend analytics are a large gamma of services, of practices. And they're determined by Gallups, by analysis, by metrics. It's a rather complicated process that you hire specific individuals to do for you if you're not a master of it. And you cannot miss on your target when you analyze trends, because once you miss on a target, it becomes very costly and possibly fatal to the approach. the demographics. The demographics is understanding who you want to sell to and who you're going to approach, thus maximizing your ROI on your investment dollar or euro. May I say that's a good opportunity for the business who are interested on exporting right now, because the euro, I mean, Italy and so on and so forth are in political turmoil, and generally the euro is low, so it's a great opportunity. It's a contrarian time, but it's a great opportunity to move into the US right now as Europeans. Apart from the demographics, we need to understand the segments. Who wants what, and if it comes to food, who eats what, if it comes to clothing, who wears what, and what are the fashionable trends, whether it comes to packaging of food or whether it comes to clothing. So you do need to have consultants or people who know and understand this science and advise you. And you as CEOs and presidents of your corporations, you need to understand what they're saying to you. You cannot go blind because you have the production. The production is one element of the entire process. You need to understand if there is demand, and if you are bold enough, you need to create the demand. You need to organize strategically the approach and mechanize demand outlets, demand channels that you will generate and attract the consumer. So it's not that we place logistically 100 tons of product daily into the US market and then stays in the ports. And how is this product going to be denominated, substantiated by going into the hands of the consumer and collecting the dollar? Because we are here to make money. We are in business to make money. And if we see it this way, exporting to the United States is a venture. It's maybe exciting, but at the end of the day, our P&Ls have to show success, and we have to work on the black. This creates exit strategies, acquisitions, mergers, and other economies of scale that you may be today a small to medium-sized company, but then you can leverage your productivity, correct flow of product from production to the hands of the consumer, and then exit through various ways. So the strategy that you're going to employ is directly based on your ROI, and your ROI is directly based on your red or black button. You need to consult your companies with people who analyze this data, who data mine, and will give you the information, the ways to understand how you're going to approach as a strategist. I practice what I preach, and I listen to strategists, to people who give me this data on a daily basis, so I can make decisions, profitable decisions for the constituency or the stockholders or the members that I represent. You have any questions?
No, let's make it more, let's say, practical and go in deep. For example,
Okay.
if this company would like to tender, okay, and he has, as I told you, 100 tons per day. So he thinks that he could make, he has some markets here in European Union, and he would like to expand in United States. So the first thing, he has to do the analytics.
Yes, analytics.
How much this will cost for a company, approximately, and I would like to give to some here, we should find out how much it will cost all these things in the first beginning, because you have some pre-costs before you enter to the market, and sometimes all these amounts are going to save you money and reputation and time also. Okay.
Well, again, going back to basics, before you approach any target, you need to strategize. You need to set your policies. And if you're based out of Greece, you need to understand how much money you're going to spend and how much money you expect in return. So if if your ROI is 20 or 30 times, you're in the beautiful blue. Forget about the black or the red. But if it's negative, then you're in the depths of chaotic circumstances. But I cannot give you a number because I do not know what your outlook is. But figure out that 20 or 30 times your ROI should be a healthy way of measuring your spending capabilities. Actually, this coincides exactly with the numbers that Aris gave you, randomly, but it is what it is. He mentioned 500,000 as a startup point to $1.5 million, the first 2 years of approach. He mentions 500 to 8.5 million at this point. As an example of a case study, is about 19 times the
And this
the
is
ROI.
only for retail. We're
Retail,
talking because is there an option of food service or an option of horeca or a hotel, restaurant, and catering market to enter?
The market is vast.
In order to save some cost and
Well,
Chris, please.
yeah, absolutely.
So one advantage of a food service is your marketing costs are drastically reduced because the branding isn't as important. So food service, it helps economies of scale if you do a dual target and go for the retail as well as food service, because you've got the ingredients, food service doesn't take as much marketing, and then on the retail side, you've got the marketing to support the product. Just two other thoughts. Make sure on the marketing side, when you do your research, that the product name translates to US. So if it's called something in Greece, it might have a different meaning in the US. So it's important to make sure that, you might have to rename your product so that the US understands it, and make sure the labeling also has usages on it. So if it's something, obviously, like olive oil, one of the new trends in olive oil is putting on the label all the different uses. So this one is for salad, this is for finishing, this is for meat, and it's just a way to get the consumer, give them more information and to buy more. But again, the marketing expenses, if you're going to be doing trade ads, those are very expensive. So once you get to the marketing. But again, the food service, you can find one distributor, an importer that can help you with food service as well as retail. And I'm a big fan of food service. I've been in food service over 30 years. And to me, it's easier to sell to a chef than it is to to get the consumer to take your product off the shelf.
Because, okay, there is a theory always here in Greece that a company can ask, why do I not sell in bulk, for example, 20 tons, than to make 20,000 pieces of the same thing in order to sell them. So this is the overvalue. He gets the overvalue for this market or the potential of this market when he tries to enter to the end user of the market and not in bulk or in food service.
You want to answer? Yeah, I have an alternative approach. I've experienced that contract management is very important in the arrangements of supply and demand, especially when it comes to one-time or initiation of businesses in a different culture, in a different environment. And when us here have to face scaled up markets and segments of vast sizes. So how do we approach this? How do we go there, and how bold we are? How much money are we going to spend? No matter what amount of money I hear tonight to spend in the US market, that will not be enough if we don't do it intelligently. And I can guarantee you that. So one way to test the waters, in parallel to what Mr. Karavassilis is saying, is contract negotiation. Go to the US, find appropriate representation, and have them communicate with users, with companies such as Trish's, and with organizations such as mine, or with organizations such as Specialty Food Service, who have the analytics, who can guide you, or with organizations such as DK Consultants, who will manage to negotiate contracts. And what do I mean by that? If you present and if you prepare 100 tons of product, negotiate it, pre-sell it, have it ready, and sell it within the deadlines, and then repeat the process. So it's rather an unusual approach, but it's radical. Again, I believe in contrarian terms, and that not always come out to benefit us or to make us money, but when they make us money, they make us a lot of money. So negotiate what you have and sell it before you produce it. Give it time. And please, to my colleagues, correct me if I'm wrong to this approach, but when you present what you have, when you have the capability of producing it, and when you get a commitment of selling it, in bulk, the 100 tons, then you should either consider this approach and combine it with business analytics, because when you present your product or your tonnage of product, you need to persuade whoever buys it or whoever commits to make this purchase that he or she are able to distribute easily at a high profitability, i.e. the distributors, wholesalers, brokers, etc.
Άρη, έχεις σκεφτεί ποτέ, θα σου κάνω έτσι μια ερώτηση που μου ήρθε τώρα, έχεις σκεφτεί ποτέ να εμφιαλώσεις αμερικάνικο ελαιόλαδο εάν η Αιγαία γίνει πολύ γνωστή μάρκα στην Αμερική?
Όχι, γιατί νομίζω ότι σε κάθε εταιρεία υπάρχουν... Καταρχήν, οι εταιρείες πρέπει να είναι πολύ flexible. Το business plan το αλλάζει συνέχεια, οι αγορές τρέχουν πάρα πολύ γρήγορα και πρέπει να είσαι έτοιμος να αντιδράσεις. Υπάρχουν δύο μόνο πράγματα σε μια εταιρεία, τα οποία είναι, κατά τη γνώμη μου, τελείως αδιαπραγμάτευτα. Αυτό είναι το DNA του brand, και το DNA της Αιγαία σαν brand είναι αυθεντικό ελληνικό προϊόν, και τα values, οι αξίες της εταιρείας. Αυτά είναι τα δύο πράγματα που δεν αλλάζεις ποτέ. Όλα τα άλλα πρέπει να είσαι πολύ flexible και πολύ γρήγορος και να μπορείς να παρακολουθείς τις αγορές και να καινοτομείς. Άρα η Αιγαία όχι, δεν θα πουλούσε καλιφορνέζικο ελαιόλαδο, όχι γιατί δεν το θεωρούμε καλό προϊόν, γιατί δεν είναι το DNA του brand μας και θα ήταν κακό για το brand να κάνει κάτι τέτοιο.
Η ερώτηση είναι πώς αντιμετωπίζουν οι εκεί retailers η ενδεχόμενη απειλή, παράδειγμα, υπάρχει ένα country risk κατά ψέματα αυτή τη στιγμή, είτε σε θέματα παραδόσεων, αν υποθέσουμε ότι αύριο το πρωί, Θεός φυλάξει, αποφασίσουν κάποιοι να κλείσουν, ας πούμε, τα λιμάνια ή αποφασίσουν κάποιοι άλλοι, γιατί όπως αντιλαμβανόμαστε υπάρχει μια ανησυχία γενικότερα. Πώς αντιμετωπίζεις ακριβώς αυτού του είδους τα θέματα ως εταιρεία απέναντι στους μεγάλους retailers και στη δέσμευση απέναντι στους καταναλωτές που έχει δημιουργήσει ήδη η Αιγαία για να τηρήσει αυτά τα συμβόλαια, γιατί από ό,τι αντιλαμβάνομαι πρέπει να υπάρχουν και πολύ μεγάλες ρήτρες, από όσο γνωρίζω.
Εντάξει, δεν υπάρχει μεγαλύτερος εφιάλτης από να αφήσεις ράφι άδειο, αυτό δεν υπάρχει καμιά αμφιβολία. Ο τρόπος που απαντάμε σε αυτή την ερώτηση στο εξωτερικό είναι ότι αυτά είναι μέρος της αυθεντικότητας του ελληνικού προϊόντος. Ευτυχώς στην Αμερική πλέον μας αντιμετωπίζουν σαν αμερικάνικη εταιρεία και στην Ευρώπη δεν είχαμε τέτοια προβλήματα, γιατί οι σχέσεις μας με τους διανομείς μας πάνε πάρα πολλά χρόνια. Είναι σταθερές μακροχρόνιες σχέσεις, στις οποίες έχουμε αποδείξει το reliability που έχουμε σαν εταιρεία στις παραδόσεις και άρα δεν τέθηκε αυτό το θέμα. Εντάξει, η αλήθεια είναι θα ήταν πολύ καλύτερο να μην υπήρχαν όλα αυτά τα προβλήματα. Να κάνω μια παρατήρηση στην συζήτηση. Δεν πρέπει κανείς, όταν αποφασίζει ή όταν σκέφτεται να πάει στην Αμερική, να παρασυρθεί από την ευκαιρία. Η ευκαιρία υπάρχει αδιαμφισβήτητα. Το βάθος της αγοράς είναι τέτοιο που τα νούμερα είναι τρελά. Δηλαδή, δεν είναι μόνο το grocery, δεν είναι μόνο το specialty, δεν είναι μόνο το natural, δεν είναι μόνο το food service. Αν μιλήσεις με μια αεροπορική εταιρεία, μιλάς για εκατομμύρια τεμάχια κατευθείαν. Αν κοιτάξεις τα C-stores, είναι 180.000 σημεία πώλησης. Δηλαδή, είναι τόσες πολλές οι αγορές, είναι τόσα πολλά τα opportunities, αλλά νομίζω ότι αυτό που πρέπει να υπολογίσεις πάρα πολύ καλά, γιατί αλλιώς θα το πληρώσεις πολύ ακριβά, είναι το να έχεις τη δύναμη τα πρώτα 2-3 πάρα πολύ δύσκολα χρόνια να στηρίξεις οικονομικά το εγχείρημά σου. Νομίζω ότι αυτό είναι το πιο σημαντικό κριτήριο.
Tris?
Okay.
You agree?
Sorry, I'm just listening to translation. Yes, well, one thing on the economic situation, importers are used to strikes. And they're used to sometimes obstacles in the supply chain. In France, they go on strike every September, which is when all the holiday goods are coming over. So we always prepare for that and would order in advance. One of the things to be concerned about on retail is if there is a delay in the goods, once you lose that shelf space, you might have lost it for good. So if there's a long-term delay in production for whatever reason, it's a bad olive crop, whatever it might be, it is jeopardizing the product on the shelf. And once you lose that space, it almost is like you have to go back in and resell it again. But again, importers are aware of the situation, and between between the earthquakes and everything's happened, and it's just, again, it's communicating. Don't wait till you get the PO to tell the importer that you don't have any product. If you know there's a situation. Again, anything. It's like any relationship. Communicate in advance. If you think there's going to be a situation, communicate and find a solution, and just be proactive.
And will you please give us your opinion about the sense with your previous hat that you were in Cisco Group as a buyer? What is your opinion about, in general, the Greek products and Hellenic products, as Mr. Loukatsos told us from yesterday? We are going to brand them as Hellenic products.
Okay. Well,
instead of Spanish products and instead of Tunisian products, because we all say that we have Mediterranean products. Okay, we want to find out what are the credential points and the value points that we have as a nation to adapt and to promote. From your point of view and from your perspective as a buyer.
Okay, so at European Imports, we did not import many products from Greece. Olives, olive oil, and some cheese. And one of the reasons is we did not have, when I say access, we didn't see unique products. People weren't coming to us. Again, I believe they were going more to the Greek ethnic importers or importers. We never made trade trips here. So we, I'm going to say, did not have a lot of Greek products. In the U.S., the Mediterranean diet is becoming more and more important for the healthy lifestyle. So I do believe the market is wide open. One of the stories I like to tell is if you look at Spanish products in the U.S., 10, 15 years ago, nobody would have known what a Spanish product was. And Foods from Spain made a huge campaign. And every single food magazine you opened up, whether it was Bon Appetit, Food and Wine, consumer magazines, had articles in there about foods from Spain and the benefits of the Mediterranean diet. And it's my personal belief that that is what drove the Spanish product, to the top, where people now know what a tapas is, and so on. So it's not only marketing the diet, marketing the uniqueness of the products, but it's marketing your culture and targeting the people who have traveled to Greece. Because if you can start marketing to the people who have been here and the consumers, you're giving them back an experience that they might never ever be able to experience authentically again. So it's telling the story, and as I said, it's an uphill battle, but the U.S. market is, right now, for the Mediterranean diet and healthy lifestyle, it's more and more important.
Thank you, Tris. Dimitris, would you like to add something?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Apart from the whole flow of product presentation in the U.S., we need to understand that when we go to the U.S., we set up shop. So we do have a business there. It's not that our business is here anymore, because once you bring your product and you successfully have it purchased by one of the distribution channels or by the wider consumer public, you need to set up shop, and you need to set up shop effectively and profitably. So you need to dedicate lots of times and thought on how you're going to operate your company in New York or in LA or in Miami, because the company there does not operate in the same way that the company operates here, even if it is the same company. So you need to be aware of all the components that will assist you in a successful operation of your company there. You need to fit your company into the US culture. And in addition to that, so to be specific, you need to fit your company into the segment trends that you position yourself to sell your product or your service. So you need to think under the US concept of operating. And I'm talking about operations, logistical operations, reporting, selling, phone calling. I'm talking about human resources, but I'm also talking about the basic concepts of marketing, because you market your product, but you also market your business. many of the people or many of the entities that will buy your product want to see who you are. Either you fly them to your headquarters in Athens or Thessaloniki or anywhere you're based, or you fly them to your headquarters or your office in Miami or in New York or whatever. They need to see who you are. They need to see how much of how solid you are. Not necessarily big by means of real estate, but efficient. They need to know that you operate and you set up shop in the United States. Communications, the ability to communicate the furthest detail on day-to-day operations. The product specs. The specs are very important and it's basic. So you need to make sure that either meet or exceed expectations. You asked the question before as far as the impression or what popularity the Greek products belong into, or what range of popularity. You know, I will tell you something about Greek Americans in the United States. I'm a Greek American, proud to be Greek, proud to be American. But I will tell you this, the Greek American has a great reputation in the hospitality business. The Greek American is a very big part of the hospitality industry. And the Greek American has been the catalyst for tremendous success in the hospitality business, in hotels, in entertainment, food service, but also in tourism and travel. I can sit here and name hundreds and hundreds of companies with Greek interests that operate in the United States very successfully. Public companies, privately held companies, private placement companies. The Greek American is a very successful entrepreneur in the United States. That is an advantage to the importer who starts here today. This is an advantage to the entity that needs to go there, associate with the Greek American power of the market, and be held by the hand and be helped to sell more and more of product, but also services, whether that's tourism, transportation, hotels, restaurant franchises, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not only the food service, and we do not only produce food, we produce ideas, we produce brands, we produce apparel, athletic apparel, we produce textile, we produce so many things that we can go out there and export and do huge business, of which we are already connoisseurs of.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Dimitris.
Sure.
Θα ήθελα λίγο να περάσουμε σε ερωτήσεις σε εσάς. Νομίζω ότι έχουμε πλέον μια αρκετά καλή βάση για να μπορέσουμε να αξιοποιήσουμε την παρουσία σήμερα των ανθρώπων αυτών και τις εμπειρίες και τις γνώσεις τους. Θα ήθελα, σας παρακαλώ, υπάρχει κάτι που κύριος στο βάθος. Αν θέλετε, σας παρακαλώ πολύ να μας πείτε η ιδιότητα, το όνομά σας και σε ποιον απευθύνεται η ερώτηση.
Καλησπέρα. Ονομάζομαι Θοδωρής Βέργος. Εκπροσωπώ τη Βέργος Ανανεώσιμες Πηγές από την Πάτρα. Ενδιαφερόμαστε να ξεκινήσουμε εξαγωγές και θα ήθελα να ρωτήσω και τους τρεις, όποιος θέλει να απαντήσει. Αν επιλέγατε να ξεκινήσετε από μία πολιτεία αυτή τη στιγμή, επειδή δεν έχετε δυνατότητα να ξεκινήσετε τροφοδοτώντας όλα τα μαγαζιά και τις αναγκαίες ποσότητες που μπορεί να ζητήσει ολόκληρη η Αμερική, από πού θα ξεκινούσατε?
Okay, there's no easy answer to that. Again, I would do market research, look at demographics, and look at what state might be best for whatever type of product you have. A lot of people, I'm going to say, would probably say New York or California first, but regionality is going to be an important consideration. I said it's not. I don't believe there's any easy answer to that question. So.
What about Texas? Because Texas is one of the biggest states that we have.
Just because it's biggest doesn't mean it's best. So, no, and that's why, again, it's just looking at what you know, if it's something that's traditionally Greek, you might want to look at studies and see what state has the most Greeks. You know, so it's doing some research. Again, it's not, there's no easy answer, because again, if you're selling to California, California is a huge state. If you have an importer in the north, it's 8 hours to get it to the south. So you're not even covering that whole state.
My answer to your question, it's a personal opinion. It would be to approach a state that has easy logistics, easy transport to the center of sales, close to a port. You're not going to go to Alabama. It's going to be logistical impossible to go sell your products in Alabama. But if you go to the tri-state, if you go to the East Coast, mid-East Coast, where there's a lot of ports and a lot of easy transportation, I think that's your best bet, and that's what I would do. It also depends on what kind of product you're selling. And to the remarks of one of our esteemed audience, I wouldn't try to sell the Greek product only to the Greek population. The Greek population is about 2 million in the United States. The population of the United States is about 340 million. Speaking of economies of scale and ROIs, you would approach this holistically. You would approach this as identifying yourself, branding yourself as a Hellenic product, but telling the people of the United States that this is a product that they should prefer over the Italian product or the Spanish product. So it will also depend on what quantities you have. So if you have very small quantities, you would approach a smaller region, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a parallel, it's a positive correlation.
Thank you very much. Κάποιος άλλος? Εδώ ο κύριος.
Test. Good evening. My name is Vasilis Rogakos from Melitini Estate. We are in the olive oil business. Mr. Kafkitsas, you mentioned setting up shop in the US. I would like to ask how important it is to have an American branch of your company in the US, or even an independent company in the US, and whether it is important for there to be a physical presence of that company there, or a mere legal presence would suffice for starters.
Thank you for the question. I believe that presence and locality are two things that are in parallel. You don't have to set up shop, but controlling your operations on a day-to-day basis from here, by the mere fact of time differentiation, it becomes impossible. For example, I arrived in Athens Saturday evening. I had business to attend to, as well as Sunday morning, as well as Sunday evening. As I was attending business here, I had to attend to business in New York. I barred myself from sleeping so I can attend my business in New York, not knowing exactly how my newly established shop in New York or in Miami is doing, worrying about the reporting capabilities of my new staff, who will represent my brand. I'm very adamant when it comes to branding, because brand comes with a tie, brand comes with a shop, brand comes with the impression of an office, but brand comes with the attitude of people toward other people. And sales come with logistics, but also come with the relationships. So if you really want to achieve presence in the US, you don't have to have a big office or many of staff, but you do need to have presence where people will reach out to you, where people will talk to you, and people will identify you with the product and with their need. You have a question as far as a legal entity. A legal entity may or may not do the job logistically, but strategically, I do not believe it will be sufficient. Sure.
Thank you. Our last question. No, I think that we have covered. Thank you very much. I hope it was interesting. Mr. Moisov.
Thank you very much for the beautiful conversation. I want to welcome at the podium Mr. Lenards, who is from the Red Star Corporation, and he will speak about the US FDA regulations and how companies should comply with the new rules.
Good afternoon, everyone. Firstly, I would like to thank all of you for being here at the Export USA Forum, the American Hellenic Chamber of Commerce, and our partner at Trade USA, which represents Registrar Corp here in Greece. As a couple of my colleagues from America said earlier, I regret I can't give my presentation in Greek, but instead of being 20 minutes, it would probably take me 20 or 30 years. So I remember what a friend once told me from Mexico. He said, if you speak 3 languages, you're trilingual. If you speak 2 languages, you're bilingual. And if you speak 1 language, you must be American. I actually do speak French in addition to English, but unfortunately not Greek. So what I'm going to talk about today are the requirements. We've heard so far about how wonderful the U.S. market is, and it is indeed a market of great opportunity. But what I'll speak about are the regulatory requirements. What do you need to do to get your product into the U.S. market and onto the shelves from a regulatory perspective? I'll be addressing specifically food and beverages. And there are a number of requirements that I'll talk about: registration, U.S. agent, prior notice, labeling, canned good registrations, food safety requirements, and so forth. So how exactly are food products regulated in the U.S.? They're regulated by the federal agency, the Food and Drug Administration. It's a large agency, over 9,000 employees, headquartered just outside of Washington, D.C. Some common myths. People think, oh, FDA, they approve food. They don't. There is no approval process. That's the good news. FDA doesn't approve specific products. FDA doesn't even require that you submit your label or have an inspection prior to beginning business in the United States. What FDA is they are tasked by Congress, by the American laws, to be the regulator. And what that means is they actually interpret what Congress has passed as a law, and they establish the rules for the regulations of food and beverages, along with medical devices, cosmetics, drug products. And then they are the enforcer, or the police, if you will, of those regulations. And so while the U.S. is a highly regulated market, much like Europe or Japan, it is a market that is extremely accessible. It's a market accessible for those, though, who are prepared.